Okay, thank you for that kind introduction. So I'm here as one of the product managers from LabVantage Solutions, talking today around how embracing software as a service, or SaaS, can be leveraged to future-proof your laboratory informatics ecosystem. So, topics we're going to be looking into. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to dig into how SaaS could help improve your return on investment, why you might benefit by embracing a SaaS-driven mindset, along with what positive impacts that could have for your organisation. And finally, digging into how you decide whether the timing would be right for you to start considering this culture shift for yourself. Let's open the topic by considering this sentiment from the author of the 4-Hour Workweek, which is around focusing your time and energy on working towards productive outcomes instead of busy work. In the context of this presentation, that might be enabling you and your colleagues across lab and IT focusing to work towards your business's objectives by transitioning your interactions with your LIMS to be using the LIMS rather than on tasks around daily care for the LIMS. I'll mention here at this point throughout the presentation, I'll often just use the word LIMS or the term LIMS for simplicity's sake, but I'm colloquially referring to any and all of the laboratory informatics within your ecosystem, which could also include an ELN or electronic lab notebook, laboratory execution systems, chromatography data systems, any of the software within your laboratory ecosystem. But back to that topic in hand, as we go through this talk, let's keep this concept in mind about how we can increase the ratio of productive work that you're doing versus busy work as our guiding principle throughout the presentation. Before going into SaaS specifically, let's take a moment to consider some of the trends and opportunities that have accelerated this market shift. I'm sure you'll have heard the terms digital transformation, lab of the future, or lab 4.0 from both LabVantage, but probably most other vendors in the industry over recent years. But what do we all mean when we talk about this? If you think about the world today, we're all seeing staff reduction, yet we're all being asked to deliver more. And this is paving the way for the adoption of new transformative digital technologies that can help streamline our daily task list. Now, this could be through increasing automation, through things like integration between systems in the lab, be it software systems or through your instruments, or through the use of robotics that may automate sample prep for you. It could be through new tools, such as artificial intelligence or machine learning, or through the introduction of agile processes. Now, all of these things, of course, are looking to make sure that as well as streamlining and allowing you to do more, we're also leading to opportunity for better product quality, waste reduction, and also making sure along the way that we're still maintaining and adhering to any regulatory requirements that you might have. So, software as a service, or SaaS, the focus of this talk, is just one trend in that mix. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll understand and agree why I think it should be considered one of the most influential trends in this digital transformation. Now, what does this traditionally look like? A LIMS has for many years been considered as the backbone of your laboratory operation. And certainly when well implemented, it will assist your lab staff to work through their daily tasks in a smooth, unhindered fashion. But at what cost? The most successful LIMS systems in market have been those offering the most flexibility that allow you to most seamlessly build your business processes to be mapped out in that LIMS through various configuration tools. But it could be argued that the more flexibility a system offers, the more and longer it's going to take to implement and go live while you make choices on how you want that system to work. And obviously, the longer it takes you to go live, the longer it takes for you to start to recognise the value from that purchase. It's also worth noting that generally, the more flexible a configuration tool is, it means the more settings, the more complexity there is in that system. And the more complex the system is, the more expensive and time-consuming it's going to be for your LIMS administrators to maintain post-go live. And then remember, as the backbone of the lab, you need to be assured that it's always going to be available for you. So it needs to constant IT attention to ensure that it and the data it contains is backed up and it should remain safe from emerging security threats. And here's one of the challenges. In a traditional model, you own the software and you're responsible for the hardware. So all of this complexity and cost, all of this busy work, this busy time is on your shoulders within your organisation, taking you away from working on the things that are going to be adding value to your business. So let's now explore how SaaS can address these challenges and why this cultural shift is evolving in the management of laboratory informatics systems. Gartner estimates that IT organisations devote more than 75% of their budget just to run and maintain existing systems, and that this might be costing you up to 4 times the initial investment in software licenses. So all of these hidden costs that we've talked about, from maintenance, backup and recovery, applying security patches, performing upgrades, database tuning, they can be unpredictable and they can grow rapidly. So imagine a world where all of these busy tasks are covered for you by your LIMS vendor, and not just the effort, but also the risk, leaving you with nothing to worry about other than your business. And if that vendor can also remove the need for lengthy installation and implementation projects by being able to immediately upon purchase spin up a new system through ready-to-go accelerators designed for your market that include industry best practice workflows and standard-based data that you can use to allow you to start to tailor to your specific needs, you'll not only be more rapidly able to see the value from your investment, but you can also take comfort that you're going to be using the system in the way that it was designed to be used by the product and industry subject matter experts. And all of this is going to make it easier to roll out, make it much easier for your end user training. And this is why we're seeing over 70% of new customers adopting SaaS, and why there's also an increasing trend for the switch to SaaS as a customer upgrades. So we've touched on the IT case for controlled costs and robust security, but what other benefits might you see? How often have you had the experience where an end user's requested an update or changed a configuration that would make their life much easier and simpler, but you've lacked the agility to respond? And so it's just been put onto an ever-increasing backlog, a pile of items that you might consider implementing at the next upgrade that's scheduled in 2 to 3 years' time. But because SaaS as a model includes your vendor ensuring your system remains current by rolling out updates more frequently, these end users can be delivered with much more agility too. How often have you seen contingency for future growth been factored into your initial purchase, both in terms of the number of licenses, but also in the hardware size, all of which comes at a cost? SaaS can seamlessly scale, so you can adapt your usage both up and down so that you're only ever paying for what you need. And by taking data into the cloud, it can enhance collaboration too, a theme I'll come on to more in a couple of slides' time. So summarising the story so far, we've heard how SaaS adoption is a rapidly growing trend because of both the software and the business benefits it can bring. From a pure software side, that can include the rollout of automatic updates, so you're always using the most recently released software and get access to the latest innovations from your vendor, but also the increased security it brings with the opportunity to scale both up and down as your business changes to bring cost efficiency, and the ability to access your global data from any device that has an internet connection. From a business perspective, it's all around using best practices with simpler rollout and training, rapid deployment, reduced long-term IT burden, through reduced lab and IT busy work, bringing predictable maintenance and upgrade costs. But one area we haven't touched on yet, and I'm sure many of you have already been thinking about as I've been talking, is through giving these automatic updates, how might the validation cost and testing be addressed? That does bring a different challenge. So first of all, to answer that, I would say even in a SaaS model, you would still expect to have access to a development instance, a test or validation instance, and a live production instance. So you would have access to updates in a staged area before they go live. But then the technologies used to sample these clones of the base pre-configured system means that a system can be considered pre-validated from an IQ and an OQ perspective through the vendor's testing and the provision of all of the evidence of installation and software testing to you for the base software and any pre-packaged market-specific configurations that would be delivered. You would also expect documentation to be provided to enable you to risk assess any sort of changes. So you can build proper change control into this, so you can focus in on minimizing any PQ activities based on just the specific changes. And remember, because it's happening more often, the delta each time is going to be less. So it allows you to manage this much more effectively. And remember as well, a lot of the cost and responsibility now lies with the vendor rather than yourselves in terms of the work to do this. So if we change focus a little bit now, think back if you can and recall the slide that I showed early on about the digital transformation trends and benefits, where I said that SaaS should or would be considered as one of the most influential trends in this digital transformation. But why did I say that? Well, because the adoption of SaaS will automatically open the door to many of the other trends that we discussed on that slide. So, for example, by taking your data into the cloud, and certainly at least for global organizations, centralizing all of your data from all regions into a single data lake, the AI and the ML tools can really start to make a significant impact. Assistive AI tools, in particular, can analyze vast amounts of data, far more than a human could reasonably do. And they can use that data to predict upcoming challenges that would allow you, therefore, to proactively prepare. So these might be things like patterns in work throughput and potential upcoming change in laboratory resource demands, or using patterns in data sets to predict an anomaly in instrument performance, so you could do some preventative maintenance possibly before the problem becomes critical. It might also spot trends that could predict a future risk of out-of-spec results that could have its root cause in the production line. So it's really through the thoughtful use of these assistive AI technologies that will maximise productivity throughout the entire product lifecycle that's becoming a key differentiator in how well a business thrives in today's landscapes and allows you to stay at the forefront of scientific innovation. Back to that initial point, it's all around doing more with less and ensuring potential risks to the business chain are identified, analysed and addressed before they become disruptive. And to do all of this most effectively, cloud and SaaS systems are imperative. I also mentioned collaboration earlier. By now you've seen how SaaS opens the door to better collaboration with your LIMS vendor, but it can also really foster collaboration within your business as well and look to reduce time delays in your product lifecycle. So SaaS can be configured such that it will remove the data silos that you might see from having local laboratory instances, each quite likely with slightly different implementations or configurations, each most likely with different upgrade cycles. So by bringing all the users together into a single unified platform where updates are simultaneously rolled out to everybody, it means that data can be more easily shared, especially remembering that now you can access your data from any device with an internet connection. Now, one of the other terms, industry common terms at the moment, is fair data principles. And that's a concept that assists us here. But again, what does that mean? So it's all around with the right data foundations provided through the software. Data is captured and stored with metadata such that it's findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Hopefully this talk has piqued your interest in moving to a SaaS-based laboratory informatics ecosystem, but when's the right time to look at doing that transition? Well, the industry is ready now, and all vendors offer some flavour of SaaS or vendor-managed cloud services with a subscription model. So it's what considerations that you have at your end around timing, but also making sure that when you're choosing a vendor, making sure that their offering is right for you. So throughout this presentation, we've really focused on the positives of moving to a SaaS-based model. But it does bring different risks to a traditional model, but your chosen vendor should have removed or mitigated those as part of their offering. So things to be thinking around would be, what's the service level agreement offered? What's their assured committed uptime that's going to provide you with business continuity? Remember, we talked about this being the backbone of the laboratory. We've touched on validation and pre-validation concepts. So what's the vendor going to offer you to ensure that your system remains validated and compliant to regulatory requirements as upgrades are rolled out? What security and also what data privacy policies do they have in place? So remember now that the vendor is looking after your system, and therefore personnel within that vendor's organisation is going to be able to access your data. So what have they got in place to ensure that adherence to laws such as GDPR are maintained? Actually, one of the bigger challenges of moving to a cloud or SaaS-based model is integration to instruments and devices such as printers, label printers. Actually, that's a little bit, well, it's certainly different, and it's potentially more challenging in the SaaS world. So how does the vendor address these challenges and ensure that you can build out a fully connected environment with data passing seamlessly, bidirectionally between all of these devices in a secure way that's going to maintain data integrity assurance? And finally, whilst in a SaaS model, you're subscribing to the use of the system, the data that you generate absolutely belongs to you. So what data retrieval mechanisms are in place to ensure that you're not putting access to that data at risk should the vendor partnership change in future? So as I conclude this talk, there's a few closing remarks for you to remember. In the drive to shift your working time and energy from that busy work to productive output, the adoption of SaaS is increasingly becoming inevitable, really, rather than just a choice, due to it addressing the challenges of scalability, adaptability, and cost efficiency, all whilst opening the door to take advantage of new technologies that will foster collaboration and speed up decision-making, ensuring that your company will remain at the forefront of scientific innovation. Thank you for listening.